So, it was only a couple of weeks ago that we were speculating what the contents of the up-and-coming NSO Overhaul would be, and I'll be honest, I for one wasn't expecting to do a video again on the NSO so soon, but I also wasn't expecting the size of this update to really match the scope of what was being hinted at with the data mining the community did. Let's just say I've never been so happy to be so wrong before in my life. G'day there once again viewers, this is your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today guys, we're going to be unpacking a cheeky little forum post that Wrel put up a couple of days ago, detailing just how big this NSO Overhaul is going to be. Now, just a quick little thing before we get into the video, guys, and if you have eyeballs, you've probably already noticed this, but we have a new channel design. It's been around, 6 years since I gave the channel a new logo, and about a year or two since we gave the channel a minor branding refresh. So personally, I'm really happy with how everything turned out, and I'd love to hear what your guys' feedback is as well, whether it be on my Twitter, Discord, or in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys think of the new channel look. But anyway, with that out of the way, time for some more exciting stuff. When we last talked about the NSO Overhaul, and more specifically the 21 infantry weapons and the Dervish heavy ESF that was data mined out of the game's PTS files, I was optimistic but at the same time incredibly cautious. I knew that to model this many weapons as well as create a single brand new vehicle would have been a pretty big task for the development team, and while we know that they're now capable of larger updates with their larger size, it's still a lot of work to do. So when Wrel came out with this latest post detailing just exactly what was coming in this NSO Overhaul, let's just say that pretty much most of what we discussed in that previous video and more is coming. Let's just get this out of the way right now. Wrel confirmed that the following content is coming with the NSO Overhaul as of today. 2 brand new vehicles, 4 new weapon HUD overlays, 4+ new vehicle weapon reticules, 6+ UI screen updates, 11 new directive trees, 15 new vehicle weapons, 35 new infantry weapons, 40+ new particle effects, and 130+ new sound effects. Holy shit! Like, seriously, this is a monumental update. Those are some stats that make this one of the largest updates to have ever hit Planetside 2 in its history. We have never seen an update that plans to incorporate 2 vehicles at the same time, and 35 weapons as well, all in one go. That means that even if all of those 21 weapons we briefly discussed in the last NSO video come to fruition, there's still 14 other weapons that we don't know anything about yet, which suggests that the battle rifles and sniper rifles are also getting looked at the very least. Hell, maybe even an NSO exclusive heavy weapon is on the cards here as well. The 130+ new sound effects also suggests new voice lines as well as unique sound effects for each and every weapon, and the new particle effects also allows for some pretty interesting speculation as to how these weapons are actually going to function, but we'll see more on that, I'm sure. However, beyond those key stats, Wrel was kind enough to confirm the 2 new vehicles that are coming. Ladies and gentlemen, the Dervish Heavy Fighter has been confirmed alongside the Chimera Battle Tank. These are coming to Auraxians. If the leaks are anything to go by, the Dervish Heavy Fighter is said to be a 2-seater aircraft, so it will be interesting to see if the new Chimera Battle Tank takes on board a more team-oriented focus as well. But we'll hear more about that in future posts apparently. Now, some will argue that the NSOs already have an Empire-specific fighter. It's called the Javelin, and this thing isn't being left behind either, with talks of it being allowed to equip weapons on the cards. So now NSOs who adopt the mantra of no doom and gloom when you're doing a zoom might actually be able to be combat effective, which will be exciting to see. I've seen some pretty freakishly good Javelin pilots in my day. Imagine if they were equipped with a Cobalt or a Fury. Like, the chaos would be unreal. The Defector will also be getting some arsenal upgrades as well, which is exciting to see, and could very well be what, is filling the gap in these 35+ new infantry weapons coming to the game. Now, with the updated arsenal that is coming, we're also seeing some new directive trees that better fall in line with what other factions get access to as well, with, individual weapon categories like assault rifles, carbines, SMGs, etc., making an appearance for NSOs finally. This does come at a catch, however. The directive weapon awards that are currently available to the NS Operatives are left in a bit of an awkward middle ground as a result of the overhaul, like the Kua and the Kappa, those sorts of weapons. which does sadly mean that these weapons are going to be vaulted as rewards for the new directives. Now, if you have already grinded out these directive weapons, fear not, the developers are going to be keeping them in the game and on your accounts as a legacy gift for those who were true enough to grind out that gear back when, you know, NSOs were gimped. I guess that said gear now comes as a bit of a flex per se, to say that you were a true OG NSO main who was able to push through some of the more difficult grinds in the game. There is a chance that these weapons may return at some point as non-Auraxian versions available to purchase in the black market shop on Sanctuary, but nothing on that front has been confirmed. It's only been floated as a possibility. So yeah, so far so good, right? All is looking pretty swell as far as the update is concerned, and this is without a doubt a huge content drop for the already committed NSO player, and with the faction once again in the article confirming that it's going free to play with the update, a content drop for the wider portion of the community as well. Let's keep reading on, because I did specifically leave this part until last because this is where a lot of conversation is going to be directed today, and it's also where a lot of conversation surrounding the post has been directed within the community. With the NSO faction going free to play, any account that already has a character present on another faction that has reached BR20, they will get an opportunity to unlock the faction and start playing as a robot. This free-to-play version of the faction is considered to be a freelancer faction, which is essentially going to be how they are played on live today. When a player logs in and joins the fight on a continent, they will join the faction that has the lowest population percentage on the continent at that given point in time. This is designed to help balance out player counts and is the very reason that the NSOs were implemented back in late 2019 as a population balancing tool. If you have a membership, you will be able to align your NSO character to a faction of your choice on a semi-permanent basis. Now, a player who is aligned with a faction can choose to go back into freelancer mode at will on a temporary basis, and you can choose to switch your enlisted faction if you choose to do so via an enlistment contract on Sanctuary. However, this is where things get interesting. Freelancer NSO operatives can no longer join or create an outfit, and all existing NSO outfits that have been created to this day are set to be dissolved with the overhaul coming to the game. Now, this has admittingly created some discourse on the Planetside 2 subreddit and across the board. And I've been thinking long and hard about whether or not I think this is a good call, because the thing is, guys, the NSO faction was never intended to be a faction where your allegiance to an outfit or even a squad of mates was guaranteed. It was designed to balance out population levels on a continent, which meant that you would more likely than not be playing with different people every time you logged on. The NSOs from the get-go were designed with the intent of being these freelancers that players could log into if they wanted to enjoy farming without having to deal with logging queues. This was really never designed to be a social faction. The original 3 factions are where you still were meant to go for that social experience. But what we've seen emerge here are committed NSO communities, and they're forming outfits because they were given the opportunity to do so with the game's mechanics. The game's mechanics allowed them to do that. So what we have here in actuality is a giant disconnect between intended design and player reception of the features at hand, because something was left in a phase 1 design for too long. And I can't really blame either party for this disconnect and for this sort of miscommunication, I guess, that has taken place here, because for one, the players were left with a gimped faction that really had nothing going for it, and they formed communities around that. They formed communities around the idea of being a gimped faction that had not a lot of gear to work with, but they still wanted to form together in a unified outfit to take on that challenge and still see if they can make a meaningful impact on the battlefield. Meanwhile, on the other hand, you had a development team that was horrifically understaffed at the time in which the NSO update came out, which meant that they had no capacity to improve on the faction in a meaningful way, which meant that, as a result, the players were left to run with the faction and sort of turn it into what they wanted it to be due to its lacking structure. So this was unfortunately always bound to happen, and it sucks that this is exactly what has happened. But in saying that, I can see where the developers are coming from here with these proposed updates for the NSOs. And I think that some of the reactions at play here from some elements of the NSO community, especially claims like, oh, I'm going to cancel my membership if this goes live, are a little overboard. And before you start roasting me in the comments, please allow me to explain so we can have a civil conversation in the comments, because that's all I want to do here. I just want to create a civil conversation around what is essentially turning into a really, really heated debate in the Planetside 2 community. The two largest complaints that we've heard about NSOs so far are as follows. The lacking arsenal, which is being solved with this update quite handsomely in my opinion, and the inability to reliably squad up with mates. I'm going to drop a hard truth here that not many are going to like. That was not the point of the NSO from the get-go. I'm sorry, but if you're playing the NSO with the intent of making it a social experience, you're kind of playing the wrong faction. You're putting a square peg in a round hole. Everything regarding the rationale behind why this faction exists says that this is a more solo-orientated experience for Planetside 2. At least that's what it was designed to be up until now. If NS Operatives are all joining a faction under one banner with the intent of running ops together, then it defeats the entire point of the faction even being in the game in the first place. The Nanosystems Operatives, while being dubbed the quote-unquote fourth faction by the community, are not an independent fourth faction. They have always been designed to supplement the three existing factions of Auraxians. So if we pretend that's not what it is, we aren't really going to get anywhere. And again, I can appreciate that with the lacking arsenal, this was really the only way to make something out of this quote-unquote faction. But there are still options for those who want the experience of running in an outfit as a robot after this update goes live. When you tie your allegiance to a faction as a robot, you are still able to join an outfit on that faction. Should you choose to go freelance while you're a part of that outfit, you won't be kicked per se, but you will lose access to the outfit armory assets and the outfit chat during this time. Wrel has stated on Reddit that this is to avoid outfits having the ability to play for both teams at the same time, and this is something I can sort of agree upon. You know, with current NSO outfits being able to potentially have operatives on all three factions at a time, all the while having access to the same outfit armory, the game just kind of creates a situation where an outfit can fight for both sides of a battle at a time, and even go as far as to sway said fights with powerful assets like orbital strikes. And while this does mean that free-to-play NSO characters won't have the opportunity to gain access to merit-related gear or outfit-related, armory assets, that isn't really a big deal. For the kind of player that will be making use of the faction for a more solo experience, they won't really have much use for that gear anyway. And to all my fellow NSO characters who have solo fits with the intent of harboring pocket orbital strikes for themselves, this includes me by the way, guilty as charged, this shouldn't really be a thing anyway, so I have no sympathy in that regard. But this does in fact lead us on to another point of criticism I've seen lately, and that is if you want to play in an outfit as an Nanosystems operative, you officially have to pay for it with membership essentially. A core part of the game's social structure is now behind a paywall for those who are playing the Nanosystems operatives. Sorry guys, but bit of a spoiler alert here. Nothing changes here from what we've been doing all this time. Everyone who's been playing NSO right now in an outfit is already paying for membership. So this is kind of just the status quo already, but what it does do is it gives you an ability to organize those NSO players onto a faction so that you don't have to cheat the system to play together every time you want to do ops. There are going to be some ways, I'll admit fairly jank in this current build, to remake that outfit, bring all of your NSO buddies across, go freelance if you feel the need to for a session if you don't feel like playing with your buddies, and things kind of remain the way they've always been, only now you can say, hey, we're going to do robot outfit ops tonight, which means that everyone needs to be aligned with the NC to guarantee a spot. And would you look at that? You officially have those consistent outfit ops nights with your robots without having to try and manipulate the freelance system to get into those squads. It actually immediately solves the difficulties that NSO players were having in getting into consistent squads with their robot friends. And this is why, guys, some of the complaints that I've seen don't hold much mustard, because this update does in fact solve a lot of the issues that the NSOs were facing from a social perspective on many levels. But there is one element of the Nanosystems Operatives experience that I can understand people aren't going to be too happy with, and that is the ability to squad up with your current NSO friends and not know which faction you're going to play with for a certain ops night. One week you might be playing with Vanu, one night you'll be playing with TR, you get the idea. And that's exciting, I can admit. You'll be playing with different outfits, you'll be getting different experiences every night. That's a pretty exciting experience and pretty unique to the Nanosystems robots. So one thing you could potentially look at doing to preserve that is allow these premium NSO characters to create outfits and allow premium NSO characters to join those outfits, with the outfit leader then choosing what faction that outfit aligns themselves with for a duration of time. And, you know, players within that outfit can still choose to go freelance, but if a player is in that NS operative outfit, then they have to be aligned with that faction while they're in that outfit. And if the outfit lead chooses that they want to switch factions for an ops night, then they can do that with a re-enlistment contract. That could be a middle ground to keep the spontaneity of robo factions a little bit more unique, all the while still allowing robos to have a certain degree of outfit interactivity. But anyway, moving on from that suggestion. The key terminology that I've seen used a lot is that the outfits on the NSOs have breathed life into the shell of a faction. And I admit that this is true. To the dedicated NSO players who have created communities for this quote-unquote faction while it remained in a shell of a state, you guys have done great work at cultivating that community. But for this element of the game to mature into what it was designed to be, I do feel as though it's a necessary step to take. Again, I've made my suggestion on how to improve where the developers are going with this. Once again, you can form outfits on a dedicated faction and make it an NSO only outfit if you choose to do so. You still get to keep your NSO outfit identity. It's just now tied to an allegiance. And guys, I want to make one thing clear. It will be sad to see an end of an era. There were some nights where I was left wondering, you know, what faction will that notorious NSO outfit end up aligning with tonight? And with the suggestion I made earlier, we can get around that and we can still have that spontaneity. And there was a certain level of magic behind it that I really enjoyed. But I have been watching the Reddit threads like a hawk, taking a look at the criticisms and the praises for what's coming. It's just where I stand. The NSO community will still have room to exist, just in a different way, which admittingly decreases some of the spontaneity as of right now. But if the developers were to take that suggestion on board that I made earlier, I feel as though it might be a nice middle ground. And hey, at the end of the day, regardless of what the developers do, this does allow for some consistent operations to take place should outfits want to take this approach with a unique Nanosystems specific armory. But guys, having made our way into around 17 minutes into a video, I think it's time we wrapped up here. I think it's a pretty good point. If you enjoyed it, be sure to backhand the like button, guys. It goes a long way to supporting the channel. If not, that dislike button works there as well, so feel free to abuse that if you choose to do so. As always, guys, leave a comment down below on what your thoughts are on the upcoming NSO Overhaul. And if you're new here, well, then that subscribe button also works, and you can also find links to all my social media links down below as well. Once again, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.